The planning conversation starts here on the Income Protection Podcast. Here's your host, Mike Cogdall and Grayson Owen.
All right, Mike, we're back. And today is our first episode during Disability Insurance Awareness Month. And we have a special guest here. But before we introduce our guest, how's everything going in the Panhandle?
Everything in the Panhandle's fantastic, Grayson. Just waiting on 3 inches of rain, and it may happen. People forget we have droughts here, and as I said on the last podcast, oh yeah, DI Awareness Month. Those are the people that are in the financial services industries that know about it. Nobody else does, so let's spread the word that it's just to make you aware that there's a way to protect your paycheck, not just in the month of May, but any time that you can do it is probably a good time. Other than that, things are really good. Same with you, wrapping up the school year, getting things squared away, my friend. So, it's already May. You and I were talking about DI Awareness Month for us back in January, and suddenly we wake up and it's, darn near the middle of May. But things are good. How about yourself?
Everything's rocking and rolling. Yep, finishing up the school year, and it's about to be summertime. So, as we always say, time flies. So here we are. All right, so let's pivot over. And Mike, would you like to introduce our guest and friend that's joined us today on our podcast?
Not particularly, but I will. And only because I say that because we have quite the history. Today we're fortunate enough to have Mike Sir with us and joining us today. And Mike and I met one another back in 1990 at Provident Life and Accident first convention. And I should tell a little brief on how we met. I got to the meeting, and I'm meeting the new people, and I've only been there a year. So we're kind of almost same class, if you call them classes back in the Provident day. And we're all giddy and excited because we're at a convention with some cool insurance people, right? And we're not paying for it. And back when you're in your 20s, not paying for it's the coolest thing you can do. And I think Mike would agree. But we're chatting it up, and I get this call, and I have to leave. I get to the convention. I'm there for one day. I go try to drink, 100 beers with my friends and get on a plane the next day because my grandmother passed. And my grandmother is from Cresco, Iowa. And so I'm telling these guys that I just have met that I got to leave the convention. My grandmother passed, Cresco, Iowa. And Mike, because I was born in Cresco, not raised there. And I'm saying this to Mike as well. And he's like, Cresco? I happen to be from Cresco, Iowa. And I start to explain my grandmother and the church she goes to. And he goes, you're going to find this strange, but it's probably going to be my brother that does her service. And if lo and behold, it wasn't Mike's brother that did my grandmother's funeral. And me being born in Cresco, him being raised and grew up in Cresco, our parents went to Notre Dame, which is not South Bend, but Cresco, Iowa, the high school. We suddenly found that we had this commonality and this bond that could never be broken. So fast forward our careers together, all the way through Provident, doing all kinds of things, but always in the DI industry, known each other since 1990, and now it's 2026. And we laugh about it, but we're still doing the same gosh darn thing to this day. And, we're just a little older because we met when we were 6. But anyway, to this day, we're still doing the same thing. And Mike Sir is one of those guys that brings the same passion to the industry that you and I love, Grayson. So without further ado, let me introduce Mike Sir, and you can go ahead and get this thing started with the old question answer and where we go, and Mike can tell us a little bit about his history. So Mike, I would just like to welcome you today and love having you not only during DI Awareness Month, but you know what? You can be a guest anytime, my friend. Love having you as a friend and a compatriot, as they say.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on. It's so good to see both of you guys and be part of the mission, the Income Protection Podcast. We're all in this together and trying to further the message that we need more advisors selling more disability insurance.
Well, Mike, we didn't tell you what the attire was for today, so you look pretty gosh darn good out there. Grayson and I are feeling a little sheepish in T-shirts, but we'll live with that one today. So quickly, you don't have to do it quickly. Why don't you tell us, we already know you started in 90, how you ended up where you were from, being a band man, a basketball player and everything else to where you are today, and how you got to where you are today. And you can explain what you are currently doing.
Great. It's very interesting. I think everybody who's listening to this, and plus us three here, how we ultimately got into the insurance business is almost by accident. I mean, it's always, a set of circumstances. I'm one of 8 kids, and our dad had a heart attack at age 56. And so we lived on a farm in Iowa. So we saw firsthand what happens when neighbors are having to come over and bale hay and do all sorts of stuff. And so I kind of saw it firsthand. So you go through college, and then you get out, and I just had this opportunity to get my insurance license, have an internship right out of college. The problem is you're 22 years old, you don't know a soul. I'm from Iowa. I'm living in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's tough sledding. I actually needed 2 more quarters, so 2 more semesters. So I went back to finish up at Winona State. And then I came back and got right back into the insurance business and became a DI specialist with Provident Life and Accident. That's when Mikey and I met in 1990. George Davidson hired me, and been focused solely on disability insurance really ever since. Fast forward a little bit, Mike and I worked together at Principal. Brian Lauber, I was number 3 hired, or number 4 hired, I can't remember now, in 1997, and we spent 22 years together, whatever there. And so to kind of fast forward to what I'm doing today is, I think one of the things that we've all struggled with is that, according to the CDIA, Bob Heron put this out on Monday, is 96% of advisors who are licensed to sell disability insurance don't sell any. That's the problem. And so through our entire careers, we've been trying to fix that problem by educating advisors, trying to motivate them to be able to do the right thing for their client. And what I found, especially my years just as we growing up, is that we just don't have the best tools. Other industries have just better tools. And it boils down to this. My business partner, Jim Leary, kept coming to me. He was a financial advisor at Principal, and he'd come to my training class and say, "Hey, man, you got any better tools?" I'd open up my coat and say, "Well, I got the best tools." I pull from my watch collection and everything. We got as good as tools as anybody else. I said, "What are you looking for?" He said, "I want a client-specific tool." I went, huh. So that started the journey for us to develop a client-specific visual experience. Offline, we were talking about visualization. Most people, maybe Mike excluded, learn and make decisions with visual images. Dr. Linnell Burmark wrote a book about visual literacy, and her quote is that visual images are 60,000 times more effective than words or text. They create clarity. They trigger emotion. It's how our brains are wired to make decisions and to learn, is visual images for most people. So when we set out with our company, One Protection, is to have a visual experience. So a client can say, "Okay, I now understand what we're even talking about." Because we know this: if we try to sell off of illustrations, you're dead. Why? There was an industry giant, Ken Wiley, who was a DI salary continuation guy. He'd say the details of the policy are the death of the sale. Stay out of the weeds. Keep it simple. Mike Cogdall, keep it simple. Simple beats complicated every time. So, but that's why I'm doing what we're doing today. One Protection is what my business partner and I developed, and about 6 years ago, we got it into development to create it so we can raise the tide for all boats in the industry, is to help advisors position, present, and close more disability cases in a way that they're not able to do prior to our tool. So that's kind of a little bit of an opening statement.
No, well said there, Mike, on many fronts. And as you know, and many of our listeners know, I've been a One Protection customer from the early days, I think, and it is just an outstanding platform. And to kind of echo what you said on the visual learning front, that's its most powerful element, in my opinion. I think it's easy for a client to really understand what's at risk when they see the visual, like the graph. One of your main components of your program is you have a customizable claim scenario where it shows a graph and kind of what a claim would be if it lasted 5 years or all the way till age 65. That's a very powerful thing. Whereas if you're an agent or broker or advisor listening to this, trying to sell a disability policy off of a quote, and you're talking to a client, "Hey, if you have a potential claim down the road, you get XYZ monthly benefit a month," it could be easy for them to say like, "Oh, that's in the future. That's not now. Maybe I'll be okay. I don't know." But when the visual's in front of them and they see the exact aggregate number that amount of time on claim creates for them, they now are instantly not only understanding the concept, but they're visually seeing what that could be and how long that could last for. And as Mike Cogdall always says, most people can't go a third of a year without a paycheck. So when they see that claim scenario graph, it's an eye opener a lot of times. So you guys have created something very special. So thank you for doing that. Our industry needs it. So appreciate all your hard work and everything. So
And my
thank you for saying that.
question, it's well, first statement one, it's fairly intuitive. In other words, it just numbers don't lie. We always like to laugh about that. This is not a complicated program that you guys have developed. I mean, if Cogdell can understand it, anybody can. Speaking third person here. Number two is you can make it as short or as long as you want, depending on where your customer is engaging and what they want to know or don't want to know. That part of it, I think, is pretty cool and intuitive. And what we see in today's world is people, regardless of what carrier, what AUM, what broker dealer, what insurance company that still has, captive agencies, it doesn't matter. All of them do the same thing. They have their own tool, correct? But their tool only does this. It goes through almost like the big fact finder, and some are pretty elaborate. But when you get to the world of disability insurance, it's almost a check the box, yes or no, correct?
100. Yeah, you hit on so many things. Both of you guys hit on so many things. There are great financial planning tools out there. You can build spaceships. You got UFOs. You can build with those. But when it comes to disability insurance and income protection planning, they just don't do a very good job. If they did, there wouldn't have been a need for one protection. The other thing you touched on there too is you can't unsee your problem. So Grayson, to your point, when they see they're out of work windows, it's not, at age 35, because we're all 10 feet tall and bulletproof at age 35. But if you look down the road, say, hey, who do you know? We all have stories, personal stories and professional stories of people who are too sick or hurt to work for an extended period of time. Some recovered, some stayed permanently disabled, and some are passed away. But when the client, we ask them, who do you know that suffered something, had a stroke or had a car accident, whatever, they'll say, geez, my dad had back problems. Well, how old is your dad? Like 52. How long was he out? Like 4 years between surgeries and physical therapy and all that kind of stuff. It was really a rough time for our family. If then we can show that, what you're saying, we can show that out of work window. So, hey, Billy, client, if that happened to you, you'd be out $865,000. Where's that money going to come from? Oh, you can't unsee their problem. What if it lasted, you couldn't recover? We have collective friends who are permanently disabled and they'll never work again. And so if you look at it's not about statistics. One of the things, I don't want to say pet peeve, that's a little strong, but one of the things that I think is just because we don't know any better, but as an industry, what do we put out there during DI Awareness Month? 1 in 4 20-year-olds are going to become disabled. Nobody cares. Statistics don't. In fact, I think statistics can work against you. Well, I'm one of the 3 that ain't going to become disabled. So it can actually work against you because it's not their numbers. It's when you can turn it into their numbers, then it's powerful. They can't unsee their problem. Then they're going to go to bed that night going, gee, I got a $4 million problem here. That's upsetting. The other thing too is people need to understand is that life insurance and disability insurance are joined at the hip. I always ask the question, one protection, our tagline is protecting the one asset a clients can least afford to lose. And I ask you guys, well, what's that asset? And you say income, right? Well, what are we protecting that asset against? What are the 2 risks that could affect that income stream during the working years? Obviously, disability.
And death and disability. Yep.
Premature death. So the purpose of life insurance, that's why I wanted just for everybody on the call, a lot of people that are listening to this also sell life insurance. They're not exclusive. They're joined at the hip. And that way we can help more advisors who are more attuned to selling life insurance to connect the dot better to disability insurance, because they need both during the working years. They have to have both. And so I think that's part of our collective mission, is just helping educate and giving them a tool that can demonstrate things in a way that clients can easily understand. And yes, and you're right, Mike, it is so easy to use. I had an 80-year-old friend of mine who's been in the business for 55 years up in Sioux Falls, and he's killing it. He's working with, a variety of different occupations. He said, Mike, Mike, sir, I've been selling disability insurance for 55 years. He said, this is so easy. It's like shooting fish in a barrel because you can finally tell the story way faster and way more succinctly so the client gets it and wants to move forward.
And Mike, it's not hours, it's minutes when it comes time to illustrate and show what's going on. So would you agree that you know how I roll, but if you're a planner and you're listening to us, the easiest way to plug and play One Protection is like this. You tell your client, you know what? I like to start at the beginning. And then we just did life and DI insurance right there, the very beginning. The only thing that can change your career from a working perspective to earn money are two things: the inability to work because of an accident or an illness or death. So let's start at the beginning. And then you've heard me say this 1,000 times. So let's start at the very beginning, because when was the last time somebody died and then got sick? So the very first thing I'm going to show you is what can impede your life right now today, most likely. And so this should be done step one before any money is spent. I always say, and I think you would agree, let that client have the opportunity to say yes, and it's their money. Let them spend that money where they deem fit. Don't start with a 401k and retirement planning. And I'm not telling people how to do it. I'm just saying what makes sense. Let's start at the beginning. The first thing I think anybody in the world of financial planning should be, because it can be overwhelming for clients. I am one of them that's a client. I have been overwhelmed. I do one thing at a time. You know, I have my own brain problems, and I can lose track of people in 5 minutes and forget what you just said. So start at the beginning. We will get this in place before we do anything about your future. That's where I see One Protection. Before we do a full financial plan, before we do everything, let's start at the very beginning. And then you've got a 15-minute focused income protection conversation with One Protection that shows and illustrates perfectly what's at risk from now to 67, 65, or 70, whatever that is, that retirement spectrum, and what can happen between that, what can interrupt that between now and the end. So for me, it's the very, very first thing that should be used ever. Other than name, rank, and serial number on your client, let's start at the beginning.
It's foundational. 100%. I wrote an article last year called The Essentiality of Income Protection. It is essential to a successful financial plan. Because if you guess wrong with that, it all just blows away. The number one reason year over year for home foreclosures, bankruptcies, and early withdrawal or hardship withdrawals from 401ks are health events. That's what destroys financial plans. They don't have money coming in. And that is the biggest issue out there. That's why we have those, talk about statistics. We have rotten statistics when it comes to people losing their homes. And my business partner, Jim, was a debt collections guy right out of high school. He did that for like 4 years. He said, everybody I called was either in the hospital or at home recovering, and nobody had any money. And we're trying to squeeze money out of them. Nobody had any money. They weren't planned. They did not have, like you said, Mike, they didn't start at the very beginning and get their plans in order. So when things get interrupted, it is devastating. It's not a bump on the road. It's the end of the road, and it just destroys their financial plan.
And for people, it's so simply put, Mike, and you just basically said what I'm about to say again. Medical insurance pays all your medical bills to make sure in the event you get hurt or sick, you get well taken care of. What it doesn't pay is your mortgage and many other things. It just does not. It's not built that way. It doesn't do it. Because if you had mortgage or medical insurance that paid for everything, it'd be about $6,000 a month, $7,000 a month, $8,000 a month. So it just doesn't pay anything else. In the event you're hurt or sick, who pays it? So if you start at the beginning, this is where One Protection fits perfectly. The very first thing you do. At least that's my opinion.
Concept first, sales process.
Yes. It's almost a standalone feature. It's like, I'm not going to burden you today with how we're going to do this. We're going to do this in steps as a financial planner, AU, whatever you are. And we talk about, like, if you're not doing it, get someone to do it for you. So those are conversations we've already had and we'll have in the future. But you're both correct. You've got to start here to get to there. And it's a 15-minute conversation. Let the client digest that. You almost leave it, Mike, with One Protection, because I've seen it so many times demonstrated and used, and I know people that do use it. It almost leaves you with a yes or a no, not a maybe. And that's important in everybody's world. A yes or a no, but not a maybe.
Mike, I got to stop you right there because I did a post a year ago, and Mike, sir, you're going to appreciate this because you're a music guy as well. I'm wearing my Oasis t-shirt, and one of I think their first album, which I'm wearing the picture of, is called Definitely Maybe. And so you do not want a maybe, to your point, Cogdall. It's like, and this gets you there. They understand the concept, and it's either going to be a yes, I need to go solve this. Premium becomes secondary because the liability is in the forefront of their mind. They understand the concept, and it's either a quick no or yes, probably 80 to 90% of the time. I know we're going to wrap up here in a minute. Mike, sir, I just wanted to ask you if you could highlight two things before we jump off the call. One is, what markets are the best for one protection if advisors are working in certain markets? And I just wanted to kind of give everybody an understanding of what markets you guys focus on, or if it's for everybody, in your opinion. And then if you could also just direct our audience, and we'll put a link in the comments and everything, but where they can find out more or set up a demo to better understand your solution.
Great. Well, thank you. First of all, markets. Let's break this into two parts. The market for disability insurance, I think there's 133 million working full-time working Americans. Some are business owners, some are employees, of course, and so on. The vast majority of them never even thought about any of this. So the market for anybody on this call listening it's everyone, from plumbers and hairstylists up to neurosurgeons and executives. They all need to have this conversation. If they're making $45,000, great, but they still need to have this conversation. If they're making 450, great. Or if they're making 1.5, great. So the market for everybody, it's truly the blue ocean, a vast majority of the people. And by the way, people talk about the most saturated market in the DI industry, of course, is the medical community, the MDs. And out of 135 full-time workers, only one's a doc. So 134 aren't getting their needs met. Out of 134 out of 135. So the market for one protection is, here's who we fit with. Advisors who are trying but struggling. We know people who are just, they're in that medical community. It's not about trying to demonstrate a need. They don't need, it's a matter of filling the order or making sure they're buying the right carrier. And there's a sale there, but it doesn't need what one protection does. What works best is the advisors who are trying but struggling. They've got the clients that need to come, but they're not getting yeses. They're getting maybes or no because they can't get the point across. It's not connecting enough for them to move forward in underwriting. So our market is the advisors who know it's important. They got people to talk to, but they're struggling. That's who we can help. And so you'll put in the description, Grayson, but it's www.oneprotection, ONEPROTECTION, tech, TECH. And they can go there. That's how they can connect up and get a demo and things like that. I just encourage everybody, listen to guys like this, who are trying to help people think differently about this market. It's necessary. Don't vote for people. Mike Cogdall, don't vote for people. Let them say yes or no. And just give the clients a chance, and don't bury it into some financial plan. One of my biggest frustrations is, well, the financial plan. There's all sorts of financial planning tools out there, and they're awesome. You can build spaceships. However, in this area of planning, it has to be a separate conversation. Today, we're going to talk about this, because this is your most important asset. Without this, there is no financial plan. Let's take 15 minutes and talk about this. And that's where I think we can collectively, we can help all the advisors who want to get better at this area of planning. I think we can do that.
Mike, one more thing that we forgot to mention that we should is you built this entire system being carrier agnostic.
100% carrier and distribution agnostic. Just we don't represent product. You guys do that. There's all sorts of great carriers out there, and I love them all. We have better access to product and process today than at any point in history. So there's no problem with that. We don't get involved in any of that. Our advisors need their distributors more because they're going to have more activity. And it's completely agnostic. So it doesn't matter if it's a white collar or a blue collar or this carrier or that carrier. The problem needs to be identified and understood. The pain of the problem has to outweigh the pain of the solution. If they don't believe they have a problem, the client doesn't believe they don't have a problem, they'll never buy anything. Because whatever you pull out of the bag or put up on the Zoom screen, it's too much money. They don't believe they have a problem. The question is, do they? And do they understand the magnitude of the problem? That's our challenge.
Mike, and I have one more thought. Everybody that listens today, I would highly, highly recommend that you go do the demo. Let Grayson, myself, or anybody know what you think, and take it beyond you, just our listening audience or viewing audience. To do the demo is let's play 6 degrees of separation and take it to other people, because we all hang out with people in our groups. So you all know other financial planning people, people in the insurance industry, licensed, anybody that does what we do in financial services generally. Let them know, if you go do the demo and like it, that it might be worth their half hour at a time to check this thing out too. Because all we're trying to do during DI Awareness Month is just help people make this stuff real.
There we have it. Mike, sir, thanks for coming on the show today. We really appreciate your time and sharing your insights, and thanks for all that you do for the industry. Any final thoughts?
No, I just love that you guys have such passion. We're all in this together. We're all in the same canoe, paddling in the same direction. And it's the industry giants like you guys and the others that we can name that are still carrying the flag. And so just really grateful to be part of this team.
Michael, we're grateful to have you, my friend. So we'll see you down the road, and appreciate you taking the time today.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great day, everybody.
And remember, financial planning starts with a risk protection package first.
And your clients are counting on you. See you on the show next time.
All right, my friend, be well.